Charlie didn't really get it, but he joined in the protest with the older folks. While chanting slogans, he asked one of the older guys next to him what was happening, and finally got the story. It turned out that this Harley insurance company had been offering policies with crazy high returns, and these seniors were lured in by the promise of big payouts. They all bought a bunch of policies from the company. It was supposed to be the day they collected their dividends. But when they showed up to get their money, they found the company's doors locked. A couple of employees were there, just feeding everyone flimsy excuses. This group of seniors realized they'd been scammed. No wonder his mother-in-law had called him in such a panic and made him come join her. Thinking about it, Charlie's stomach dropped. He couldn't help but ask his mother-in-law, "Mom, how much did you invest in this?" Elaine said nervously. "They told me I'd get huge dividends. I got carried away and put all our savings into their policies." Charlie was floored. "What? All our savings went into this?" Hearing that, Elaine immediately snapped at him. "Do you have to have a big mouth? Don't you think I'm embarrassed enough? Why are you shouting?" She kept on nagging. "If you'd ever brought in any real money, I wouldn't have had to risk it on this company. With a useless son-in-law like you around, what other choice did I have to make our money grow? This guy, it's one thing that he doesn't support the family, but now he's judging her as if he could have done better with that money." Then she said to Charlie, "I'm telling you, you stay here and keep chanting. Don't you dare stop for a second." Charlie could only nod and say, "Okay, Mom." Just then, a few of the other women came over. They looked Charlie up and down, then asked Elaine, "Elaine, is this your son-in-law?" As they talked, they gave his clothes another once-over, shook their heads, and chuckled. "Why does he look so shabby? He doesn't look like much of a son-in-law. Yeah, those clothes have seen better days. He can't compare to someone from Lady Wilson's family. Some people are just so good at putting others down," and every word was dripping with contempt. Charlie didn't care. They were all older women with one foot in the grave, and now they'd lost their life savings. He didn't see any point in arguing with them. Elaine was fuming, and the sight of Charlie just made her even angrier. She snapped, "Look at him. I'm going to make my daughter divorce him in a few days. She can do so much better with a new husband." Charlie scoffed to himself. Even if you gathered all the rich kids in Orris Hill, they couldn't hold a candle to him. Elaine was getting desperate. Charlie was useless. The most he could do was shout slogans for her. To get her investment back, she needed someone with real power to step in and fix this. It was a shame the family of Wendell Jones, who'd been after her daughter, had gone bankrupt. Otherwise, she could have asked them for help. That's it. Elaine suddenly remembered Gerald's brother, Fred White, the one she'd met at the family banquet yesterday. He was her best hope. From the way he was looking at her daughter, she figured he had a thing for Claire. The White family might not be as powerful as the Jones family used to be, but they were still a big deal. If she called him, he might be able to do something. As luck would have it, Fred White had given her his business card yesterday. She pulled out her phone and dialed his number. The call connected almost immediately. Elaine said, "Hey, is this Fred? This is Claire's mother." Ever since Fred saw Claire at the banquet, he'd been completely captivated. He couldn't get her out of his head. He was worried he'd never get a chance to get close to her, and then, out of the blue, her mother called him. He figured Elaine was in some kind of trouble, and he wasn't about to pass up an opportunity to look good. So he quickly put on a polite tone. "Elaine, is everything okay?" "Well, there is something I need your help with," Elaine said, getting straight to the point. "Fred, a few of my friends and I bought some investment products from an insurance company called Harley, and we put all our savings into it. But now the company won't let us withdraw our money. Can you figure out a way to help me get it back?" Fred was ecstatic when he heard this. He saw this as his moment to shine and said confidently, "Don't you worry, I'm on my way over right now. I'll definitely help you solve this." Elaine was thrilled. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice full of relief. After hanging up, she shot a glare at Charlie and said angrily, "Some people have no skills whatsoever. You just can't count on them. Besides shouting a few slogans, what good are they? Completely useless. Charlie just smirked. His mother-in-law was so materialistic and clueless. Calling Fred for help? This company had scammed people out of at least tens of millions. Anyone who dared to pull off a scam that big must have some serious connections, maybe even with the criminal underworld. How could Fred White possibly make them give the money back? The White family's power was pretty average, and after the Emgren Group cut ties with them, they were even weaker. With their influence, it was basically impossible for them to intervene in such a massive financial fraud case. Honestly, this little problem could be solved with a single phone call to Isaac Craven from Aurelius Grand. After all, he was the Wade family's representative in Oris Hill. Any entrepreneur or major figure in the city, legitimate or not, had to show him respect. But his mother-in-law was just so frustrating. Since she believed in Fred, he'd let Fred try to help her. He was curious to see what he could actually do. When the other seniors saw Elaine on the phone, they immediately smiled and crowded around her, asking if she'd found someone important to help them. Elaine proudly announced to the group, "Don't worry, I asked the eldest son of the White family to come and help. He'll make a few calls, and hopefully we'll get our hard-earned money back." Someone exclaimed, "The eldest son of the White family? Wow, Elaine, you're amazing. You actually know someone that important." "Yeah, a guy like Fred White must have a ton of connections. Solving our problem should be a piece of cake for him, right? Just a matter of a few words. Elaine, since you have such good contacts, why did you marry your daughter off to a loser like that instead of someone like him?" Elaine shot Charlie a look of disgust and scoffed. "This bum will be kicked out of the Wilson family sooner or later." Charlie didn't say a word. He was just going to wait and watch Fred White show up and completely fail. Soon enough, a black luxury car pulled up slowly in front of everyone. A young man in a sharp suit and leather shoes looking like a real success story stepped out of the car. It was Fred White. The seniors around them started murmuring in admiration. Wow, look at that. Now that's a real catch. What a great potential son-in-law. I wonder what lucky girl will get to be his wife someday." "Yeah. If my daughter could marry him, I'd die a happy woman. Get real. In your dreams. He wouldn't even look at your girl." Just then, Elaine spotted Fred and rushed over to him, saying desperately, "Oh, Fred, you're here. I was about to lose my mind." Fred smiled and said, "Elaine, I'm sorry to keep you waiting." Elaine quickly replied, "Oh, Fred, you're too polite. I barely waited 10 minutes. You got here so fast." Fred smiled. "I heard you were in trouble, so I hurried over. I ran a few red lights on the way." Elaine looked proud, but she asked with a show of concern, "Isn't it a problem to run so many red lights?" "Not at all," Fred White said casually. "The traffic cops in the city are all friends of mine. One phone call can make any ticket disappear." After boasting, he changed the subject. "Now, let's talk about you. How much money did you get cheated out of?" Elaine sighed. "It was over $1 million in total. We were supposed to get $200,000 in dividends this month, but now we can't even get our original investment back." Fred nodded and announced loudly, "Don't worry, I'll handle this. Now that I'm on the case, I'll definitely get your money back for you." Just then, he noticed Charlie standing behind Elaine, and his expression shifted. He hadn't expected to see that worthless eyesore Charlie here. Ever since he first saw Claire, Fred White had been smitten, and after his younger brother Gerald mentioned that Claire was probably still single, his interest grew even stronger. So, seeing Claire's loser of a husband, he couldn't help but sneer. He put on a deliberate smile and said, "Oh, look who it is. Charlie's here. Do you have a way to help Elaine get her investment back? Or do you want to give it a try first? You won't turn around and blame me for stealing your spotlight, will you?" Elaine jumped in. "Him? Try? That's a joke. What can he do to help? All he's good for is opening his mouth to shout a few slogans. Fred, just ignore him." Fred nodded and said sarcastically, "Well, since Charlie here doesn't have what it takes, I guess I'll give it a shot." Charlie just smiled slightly. "Go on, Fred. You can do it." Fred laughed with contempt. At that moment, the crowd of seniors swarmed Elaine, all talking at once. "Elaine, can you ask this handsome young man to help us too? We were all cheated out of our hard-earned money. Elaine said arrogantly, "Oh, I can't ask him to do that for all of you. Fred is doing me a personal favor and he doesn't even know you." The others started begging Fred directly. "Mr. White, you seem so capable. Please help us too." Fred was about to brush them off, but then he noticed how materialistic and greedy Elaine was. He smiled and said, "All right, since you're all friends of Elaine's, I suppose I can do you a favor." When everyone cheered, Fred looked at them with a smug expression and said, "There's just one condition. I'm only doing this for Elaine. So, you'll have to pay her a 10% commission on whatever money I get back for you. Is that acceptable?" "No problem," one of the seniors said immediately. "Getting 90% back is way better than getting nothing at all." As soon as Elaine heard this, her face lit up with glee. The total amount scammed from the group was in the tens of millions. If Fred White could actually get it all back, wouldn't she make millions herself? While Elaine was getting excited, Fred announced loudly, "Everyone, don't worry, I'm going to talk to them right now. Just wait here for the good news." Elaine felt untouchable with Fred backing her up. "Fred, I'm coming with you," she blurted out. Charlie quickly stepped in. "Mom, you should probably stay here. If Fred can't handle this, you could get into real trouble." Elaine snapped angrily. "Are you questioning Fred's abilities?" The other seniors were all counting on Fred to get their life savings back. So when Charlie started expressing doubts, it naturally made everyone angry. Facing their accusations, Charlie said calmly, "Mom, it's safer for you to wait here. It's best if you don't get involved in the negotiation." Elaine wasn't having any of it. She immediately cursed, "Shut your mouth. This has nothing to do with you." Fred's face was full of arrogance. He laughed and said, "You've got no skills, but you're definitely full of jealousy. You think I'm a loser like you who just stands around shouting empty words." Seeing that his mother-in-law wasn't going to listen to him, Charlie stopped trying. He just said lightly, "All right then, I'll be waiting for good news from Mr. White." Charlie was getting fed up with his mother-in-law, Elaine. She was a complete snob, always fooled by appearances. To put it simply, she was just like Lady Wilson, all style and no substance. His mother-in-law had no foresight and just had to jump into the mess herself. There was no talking her down from her high horse. Elaine, completely clueless that Charlie was just trying to help, shot him a nasty look. Then, in the next second, she turned to Fred and said apologetically, "Mr. Fred, please don't pay any attention to the nonsense he's spouting. I have absolute faith in you." Fred smiled triumphantly. "It's all right, Elaine. I'm not going to lower myself to the level of a wimp." With that, he said energetically, "Elaine, let's go." "Okay." Fred led Elaine through the crowd and walked right up to the door of the Harley Insurance Company. As soon as they got to the door, he shouted at the employees blocking the entrance, "Go tell your boss to refund all these people's money immediately. Otherwise, I'm getting my legal team and the police involved. When that happens, you and your boss will be arrested." Elaine chimed in from the side, "You hear that, you crooks? We've got powerful people on our side now. If your scam of a company doesn't give us our money back, be careful, because Mr. White here will send every last one of you to prison." The young employee at the head of the line got nervous. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I'm just a security guard. I don't handle the actual business." "Then call your boss," Fred said coldly. "Tell him that Fred White from the Oris Hill Elite is here. He needs to come down and deal with this personally, or else he'll have to face the consequences." As he said this, Fred's face was full of arrogance. While the White family wasn't at the top of the food chain in Oris Hill, they were at least a mid-level power. He figured the boss of a scam company would have no choice but to fold after hearing his name. The young employee didn't know how deep Fred's connections ran, but he was definitely spooked. Yet sure, so he immediately called his boss. Right then, in the chairman's office at Harley Insurance Company, the boss, Harley Fitzpatrick, was waiting on a flat-faced middle-aged man in his 40s. He was all smiles as he pulled a bank card from his desk drawer and handed it over respectfully. "Mr. Hudson," he said, "there's $30 million on this card. The pin is your birthday. This is your cut for this round. Please have a look." The middle-aged man was dressed in a sharp suit. He looked a little unhinged, but his eyes weren't angry. They were commanding. The guy had an incredible presence, If anyone else had been in the room, they would have immediately recognized him. He was Orville Hudson. In all of Aris Hill, everyone knew that Orville Hudson was the city's underground kingpin. Nobody dared to cross him. Orville Hudson looked at Harley Fitzpatrick and smiled with approval. "Harley," he said, "I didn't realize you had it in you. Not bad at all." Harley quickly asked, "Mr. Hudson, what should we do about that troublemaker, Mrs. Wilson, downstairs?" Orville said casually, "A bunch of old folks. Don't worry about them. If they don't listen to you, I'll have some of my guys come over and teach them a lesson." Harley breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Mr. Hudson." Orville Hudson smiled. "From now on, just go for it with this kind of business. As long as you're making money, I'll take care of any problems you have." Harley was ecstatic. He put on a humble expression and said, "Thank you, Mr. Hudson. With you backing me up, I'll keep pushing harder, and we'll both make a fortune." Harley didn't come from a powerful family in Aris Hill, but he had one thing going for him. He was clever and knew how to run scams. He got into financial fraud, and knowing he couldn't handle that much dirty money on his own, he went to Orville for help. He offered Orville a cut of the illegal profits in exchange for protection. Since Orville Hudson called the shots in Aris Hill, Harley was completely safe. With Orville as his backer, he didn't have a single worry about the future, and his fraudulent business was booming. Just as Harley was getting excited about his new connection with Orville, his phone rang. It was one of his employees. "Boss, we've got a problem. There's a guy here, Fred, who says he's from the White family. He's demanding all the money back right now, or he'll have you sent to prison." "Damn it, what's this about?" Harley frowned and quickly turned to Orville. "Mr. Hudson, there's a guy downstairs claiming to be from the White family, leading that group of old folks to cause trouble. He's going around saying he runs this city and that we have to give back all the money we collected, or he'll put us in prison." Harley deliberately exaggerated to get a rise out of Orville. As he spoke, he bowed again and begged, "Mr. Hudson, the White family has some real pull here in Aris Hill. If they come after me, I really can't afford to make an enemy of them. Please, you've got to help me get through this." "The White family?" Orville snorted. "The little White family is a joke to me. Even the head of their family has to bow and scrape when he sees me. Now some kid of theirs has the nerve to come after me? He must have a death wish." With that, Orville slid Harley's bank card into his pocket and said coldly, "Let's go. I want to see what kind of nobody thinks he can step to me. When Orville Hudson takes money, nobody gets it back." Fred stood at the door of Harley Insurance Company with a proud look on his face. He knew this was the perfect chance to show off in front of Claire's mother, Elaine, and he had to nail it. If he could win over the mom, getting the daughter would be easy. He'd be able to get with Claire, one of the most beautiful women in Aris Hill. The thought alone made him excited. So he announced loudly, "Folks, don't you worry. The boss of this scam company is coming out right now to give everyone a full refund." When the crowd heard this, they erupted in applause, every single one of them ecstatic. Only Charlie watched Fred with a smirk. This guy was way too full of himself. Charlie had a feeling he was about to get a rude awakening. Just as Fred was soaking in the crowd's admiration, chin held high, the door to Harley Insurance Company was suddenly pushed open from the inside. They saw the boss, Harley Fitzpatrick, walk out with a middle-aged man in a stylish suit. Even though the man was a bit older, he had an incredible presence. It was Orville Hudson. Behind Orville, several tough-looking men followed closely. These were his personal bodyguards, and they all looked incredibly strong. Orville's status was so high that even though many people in Aris Hill knew his name, most had never actually seen him. So no one, not even Fred, recognized him. Everyone only recognized Harley Fitzpatrick, the boss of Harley Insurance. The crowd immediately erupted. "Look, Elaine, Fred really got Mr. Fitzpatrick to come out. He's amazing." "Yeah, it's all thanks to Elaine. We might actually get our money back. Elaine, that young man is a real catch. He'd make 1,000 times better son-in-law." Elaine soaked up the flattery from the others, feeling incredibly pleased with herself. Fred had really helped her look good in front of everyone today. Thinking about it made her smile even wider. The way she looked at Fred was with pure satisfaction. Just then, Fred strode forward triumphantly, puffing out his chest. He didn't know Harley Fitzpatrick, and he didn't know Orville Hudson either. But since Harley seemed to be showing respect to Orville, he just assumed Orville was the boss. So, he looked at Orville and said proudly, "Are you the boss of Harley Insurance Company?" Orville replied with a slight smile, "I'm not the boss. I just help him out. But if you've got something to say, you can say it to me." Fred's face lit up with understanding, and then he sneered. "Oh, so you're just some flunky? You're not important enough to talk to me. Get lost and send your boss out here." Charlie just shook his head, looking at Fred like he was an idiot. The man in the suit clearly had a commanding presence with his crew right behind him. He was obviously not someone to mess with, but Fred was still running his mouth, practically begging for trouble. Elaine, standing nearby, also sneered and chimed in, "Fred, don't waste your breath on this nobody. The guy next to him is the boss of Harley Insurance." Harley Fitzpatrick was floored. This Fred and that old woman had some nerve. They actually dared to insult Orville Hudson like he was some street punk and tell him to get lost. They had no idea who they were dealing with. In all of Orris Hill, who would dare to be so bold as to insult Orville? Anyone who did would end up at the bottom of the river feeding the fish.
This is only 5% of the story. Full story on Pocket FM app. Click on the link in description, install the app, and get 10 episodes free instantly.